the forgotten day and the wisdom she chose. Sarah Mitchell was 55 years old, but the tiredness in her eyes made her look older. Not the kind of tiredness that sleep could fix, the kind that settles quietly in the heart after years of giving without asking for much in return. She lived alone in a modest, well-kept house on a quiet suburban street. The kind of neighborhood where lawns were trimmed every Saturday morning and neighbors waved politely but rarely stopped to talk. Her house was full, not of people, but of memories. Photographs lined the walls of the hallway. A little boy holding a baseball bat too big for his hands. A girl in a blue graduation gown, smiling nervously. Wedding pictures. Holiday dinners. Birthday candles. In every photo, Sarah stood slightly to the side. Always present. Always behind the scenes. She had learned long ago that motherhood meant standing quietly in the background while others moved forward. Mother's Day was approaching. Sarah knew because the television reminded her every hour. Commercials showed smiling families, flower bouquets, breakfast trays carried by laughing children. "Don't forget the woman who gave you everything," one voice said warmly from the screen. Sarah muted the TV. She didn't need reminders. Her children were grown now. Her son, Adam, lived 2 states away with his wife and demanding job. Her daughter, Emily, lived closer, but always seemed to be rushing somewhere. Work, friends, plans. They weren't bad children. Just busy ones. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a small part of Sarah still hoped. She never expected gifts. Never asked for flowers. She only wanted one thing. To be remembered. Underscore 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 underscore. Mother's Day morning. On Mother's Day morning, Sarah woke up earlier than usual. She lay still for a moment, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of a car passing outside. Then she got up and began her routine. She cleaned the kitchen even though it was already clean. She brushed her hair carefully and wore a soft blue cardigan, the one Adam once said made her look happy. She placed her phone on the dining table where she could see it. It stayed silent. She made herself tea and sat down, glancing at the phone every few minutes. Nothing. By noon, the tea had gone cold. She told herself not to be disappointed. "They'll call later," she whispered. People are busy in the mornings. But afternoon came and went. The phone remained quiet. No message. No missed call. No simple, "Happy Mother's Day, Mom." As the sun dipped lower, Sarah felt something familiar settle in her chest. Not anger, not bitterness. Resignation. She turned the television back on, but every channel seemed to remind her of what she was missing. So she turned it off again. That evening, she prepared dinner for one. She ate slowly, washing each dish carefully afterward as if giving herself extra time to accept the truth. When night came, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed. "Well," she said softly to the empty room, "I suppose this is how it is now." She placed her phone on the nightstand, face down, and turned off the light. Underscore 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 underscore. 3 days later, life continued as usual. Sarah volunteered at the local library. She watered her plants. She smiled politely when neighbors asked how she was doing. "I'm fine," she always said. 3 days later, there was a knock on her door. Unexpected. She opened it to find Adam and Emily standing there, slightly out of breath, clearly in a hurry. "Mom," Adam said quickly. "Hi." Sarah blinked in surprise, then smiled warmly and stepped aside. "Come in. You must be tired." She made coffee while they sat at the kitchen table. Her heart beat faster than usual. Maybe they remembered. Maybe this is their way of making it right. She placed the mugs down gently. Emily cleared her throat. Mom, we wanted to talk to you about something. Sarah sat down, hands folded neatly in her lap. Yes, Adam spoke next. We're kind of in a tight spot financially. Emily added, just temporarily. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Sarah listened quietly. They explained. Bills. Unexpected expenses. A loan they needed urgently. When Adam finally said the amount, Sarah felt the weight of it press against her chest. It wasn't a small favor. She looked at their faces, hopeful, nervous, already half expecting her to say yes. She had always said yes. This time, she didn't answer right away. Instead, she asked gently, Do you remember what day it was last Sunday? The room went still. Emily looked down at the table. Adam shifted in his seat. Mom, Emily began. Sarah didn't raise her voice. She didn't accuse. I waited that day, Sarah continued calmly. I wasn't waiting for money. Or gifts. I was waiting for a voice. Silence filled the kitchen. Adam swallowed hard. We didn't mean to forget. Sarah nodded slowly. I know, she said. But forgetting doesn't hurt less just because it wasn't intentional. She stood up and walked to her bedroom. When she returned, she placed an envelope on the table. There's money here, she said softly. I could give it to you. Their eyes lifted with relief. But I won't, she added. Both of them froze. Not today. Emily's voice trembled. Mom, are you saying no? Sarah shook her head. I'm saying something else, she replied. When a mother is remembered only when she's needed, something has already gone wrong. Adam looked ashamed. Love, Sarah continued, shouldn't come with conditions. She pushed the envelope slightly away. I raised you to stand on your own. This time, I need you to understand something instead. They left without the money. And for the first time in her life, Sarah felt strangely peaceful. Underscore 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 underscore. The following Sunday. 1 week later, on Sunday morning, there was another knock on the door. Sarah opened it slowly. Adam stood there holding a small bouquet of flowers. Emily held a cake, plain, homemade, slightly imperfect. We know it's late, Emily said, tears in her eyes. But we're here because we should have been. Adam handed her a card. Inside, it read, You were never an option. You were always our mother. Sarah felt tears slide down her cheeks. This time, she didn't stop them. They spent the day together, talking, laughing, remembering. No one mentioned money. And Sarah realized something important. Sometimes, the most loving thing a mother can do is teach her children what love truly costs. The distance that grew quietly. The days after that Sunday felt different for Sarah. Not louder. Not happier in an obvious way. Just lighter. She woke up on Monday morning expecting to feel regret. That familiar ache of wondering whether she had been too harsh, too emotional, too much of a mother. But the regret never came. Instead, there was a strange calm, the kind that settles in when you finally speak a truth you've been carrying silently for years. She made breakfast slowly, humming under her breath without realizing it. Outside, the neighborhood went on as usual. Garbage trucks rumbled by. A dog barked in the distance. Life didn't stop because a mother finally chose herself. Still, memories had a way of visiting when things grew quiet. Sarah found herself thinking back to when Adam and Emily were young. Back when her life revolved around lunchboxes, school projects, and scraped knees. She remembered Adam at 8 years old, crying because he'd struck out at a baseball game. She'd held him close and whispered, You don't have to be the best. You just have to try. She remembered Emily at 16, heartbroken over her first love. Sarah had stayed up all night with her, listening, saying very little, just being there. She had always believed presence was enough. Somewhere along the way, presence had turned invisible. underscore 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 underscore. Unspoken patterns. Adam and Emily didn't forget Mother's Day because they didn't love her. They forgot because life taught them to. Work deadlines replaced family dinners. Notifications replaced conversations. Convenience replaced intention. Sarah understood this better than anyone. She had watched it happen slowly, like erosion. At first, it was missed phone calls returned later. Then late replies to messages. Then holidays rescheduled. Then forgotten altogether. She had never confronted them. Not because she didn't feel the pain, but because she believed a mother's love meant endurance. But endurance, she realized, could quietly teach others that your heart has no limits. Underscore 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 underscore. Emily's guilt. Across town, Emily sat alone in her apartment that evening, replaying her mother's words over and over. When a mother is remembered only when she's needed, something has already gone wrong. The sentence echoed louder than any argument ever could. Emily hadn't cried in front of Sarah. She had held it together until she reached home, until the door closed behind her. Then she sank onto the couch and let the tears fall. She thought about how many times she'd scrolled past her mother's name, thinking, "I'll call her later." Later had turned into never. She remembered Mother's Day now, how she'd seen a post online, paused for a second, then kept scrolling. "I'll call tonight," she'd thought. But tonight never came. The guilt sat heavy in her chest. For the first time, Emily asked herself a question she'd avoided for years. If my mother stopped reaching out, would I even notice? Adam's silence. Adam, meanwhile, drove home in silence. His wife, Claire, noticed immediately. "You're quiet," she said gently. Adam shook his head. "I messed up." He told her everything. Claire listened without interrupting. When he finished, she sighed softly. "She's right," Claire said. "You know that, don't you?" Adam nodded. "I always thought Mom would just always be there. No matter what." Claire looked at him carefully. "That's the problem. You thought love was guaranteed." That night, Adam couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, remembering every time his mother had shown up, even when no one asked her to. And for the first time, he wondered how many times she'd gone to bed feeling forgotten. Underscore 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 underscore. Sarah's choice. Back at her quiet house, Sarah watered her plants and folded laundry. She didn't expect apologies. She didn't expect change. She had already made peace with the idea that sometimes lessons arrive late, if they arrive at all. What mattered was this. She had finally honored her own heart. And that, she realized, was something she'd never taught her children how to do. Underscore 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 underscore. Part 3. The return that meant more than money. The following Sunday morning, Sarah woke up before her alarm. Sunlight filtered softly through the curtains. The house felt warmer somehow, not physically, but emotionally. She made coffee and sat at the dining table, reading quietly. There was no expectation this time. No waiting. just being. Then came the knock. Gentle, unrushed. Sarah hesitated for a moment before standing. When she opened the door, the sight in front of her took her breath away. Adam stood holding a small bouquet, not expensive, not extravagant, just honest. Emily stood beside him, holding a cake with slightly uneven frosting and a nervous smile. Neither of them spoke at first. Then Emily stepped forward. "We're not here to ask for anything," she said softly. "We're here because we should have been here before." Adam handed her the card with trembling hands. Sarah read it slowly. "You were never an option. You were always our mother." The words cracked something open inside her. Tears came, not from pain this time, but from relief. She stepped aside. "Come in," she said. They spent the morning together, talking, laughing, remembering stories that had been buried under years of busyness. Adam apologized, not quickly, not defensively, but honestly. Emily cried openly. And Sarah listened. She didn't lecture. She didn't revisit the money. She simply allowed space for repair. At one point, Emily reached across the table and held her mother's hand. "We won't forget again," she whispered. Sarah smiled gently. "I don't need perfection," she said. "I just need presence." Underscore 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 underscore. What changed? They didn't become perfect children overnight. Life didn't slow down. But something shifted. Calls came more often, not always long, but sincere. Visits weren't only tied to needs. Mother's Day became a reminder, not a test. And Sarah learned something just as important as her children did. Love doesn't disappear when you set boundaries. It deepens. Underscore 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 underscore. Final reflection. Sometimes, the most powerful lesson isn't taught through sacrifice. It's taught through self-respect. Sarah never stopped being a mother. She simply reminded her children that her heart mattered too.